Recently, there's been a lot of talk about Kendrick's upcoming album since the outcome of the Drake beef, and it seems like he's taking full advantage of the hype. Usually, Kendrick and his team stay quiet and don't reveal much, so this is also the first time we've seen the core team tease and hype up an album like this.
But it's 2 albums I'm like going crazy. I can't wait till they drop. Roddy Ricch album, and whenever Kendrick drops his album, I'm excited for those two. Those two Compton artists is like, I'm excited.
Now with the Juneteenth show coming up as well, this lets me know the tone they're setting with this record. But most people don't realize that this new record was first teased a year ago on the 3rd of June 2023 at Governor's Ball.
Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, Good Kid, Mad City, to Pimp a Butterfly, damn, Section 80. Because of you, I will be back.
His plans for this album have been set in stone well before this beef started. Immediately after Mr. Morale dropped, Kendrick and his team started working right away on the new record. One of his main producers, Soundwave, revealed in a Billboard interview he had joined Kendrick on tour for the purpose of working on new music. This is common practice for them. We've already heard from a bunch of insiders how obsessed Kendrick is about creating new music.
Usually it's the format of finish the album, go on tour, get right back on tour, working on the next album, throwing paint on the wall, just ideas, figuring it out.
Apparently, he started working on Damn as soon as they got the final mix for To Pimp a Butterfly, and the majority of the Black Panther soundtrack was created on the Damn tour. These sessions on tour are usually used as sound explorations, figuring out how they want to attack whatever sounds they end up focusing on.
Oh, that nigga jumped out the bunk with the Event.
Whatever this album ends up being, we know it's going to sound completely different to his previous works. Everybody involved in the process is pretty much chasing the same thing.
How do we follow this up with all eyes on us? Like,
man,
what's Kendrick's next move?
I tell people all the time, man, I mean, we will never repeat ourselves because we're really students of the music and we're inspired by life.
Man, with Kendrick, for example, we met, and by the end of it, he's like, let's give a song, let's do one song and see what happens. So we did, we worked on one song. And for me, you could tell an artist was wanting something slightly different, right? Yeah. So that's the psychology.
This doesn't sound like his other stuff. I think it sounds awesome, but I don't know if he's gonna like it. And I just watched this look on his face of like, oh yeah, that sounds good. And I was like,
it's a part of their culture and ethos at this point. When you think about it, it's impressive that all his albums are made by the same core team because they sound so different.
I don't know, it's like I can have all the number ones in the world, and to me, my brain instantly goes to, okay, what's next?
Like when Mr. Morale came, I was so excited. I was like, man, I was so happy for Kendrick. I was like, damn, he got this out. He got this off his chest. Then the next day, back to the what's next.
Pretty much everything is kept in-house except for 1 or 2 new additions to the team on every album. This time around, I believe one of the new additions would be Jack Antonoff, the producer who worked on the 616 diss track. About 6 months ago, Kendrick was spotted leaving Electric Lady Studios, which is where Jack usually works. This was after a session with Taylor Swift, Jack, and Common.
One of the most interesting relationships I think there is you and Jack Antonoff.
Yeah.
How does that work?
Like from the first drum sound that I did and first chord he did, we was like a match made in heaven. To the point where I was just like, bro, where have you been my whole life?
A question I've always asked myself is how Kendrick keeps up in the ante every time he steps out. The vocal performances, new beats and flows, mixing different art mediums with the music, but most importantly, the storytelling. He gets more and more vulnerable with every project. Obviously, a big part of the anticipation of any Kendrick album is what does he have to say this time? It's because of his ability to continuously capture the human experience with the storytelling. Even with all his success, he has never seemed to be out of touch. Usually artists have a few great albums before their fans start finding it hard to connect with them like they once used to. This is why you usually will hear hardcore fans say they miss the old so-and-so artist. I don't really see this that much with Kendrick, so I went and studied his process. He has explained it a little in a few interviews, but it's never been explored really, and it's truly fascinating to me. Kendrick in the past has said by the time he starts making an album, he already has a 60% complete in his head. The majority of the recording process is finding the right beats to match the emotion, plus figuring out the vocal performances. This makes sense when you hear demos of his songs. He'll record the same verse on dozens of different beats until he finds the right one. But what's more interesting to me is how he gets to these ideas. The main focus for him is people, talking to people, studying every little nuance, paying attention to the words they use. You would think he's always reading books and studying, but no. His concepts come from interactions and conversations with random, normal human beings.
I gotta tell you, he studies every nuance, every movement, every word.
You grabbing all these different experiences around the world and all these different conversation pieces, and you almost have to reenact that.
Because a lot of my inspiration comes from meeting people or going outside of the country or going around the corner to my old neighborhood, talking to a 5-year-old little boy, and I have to remember these things.
Where I was at, Johannesburg.
Okay.
Johannesburg. Going out there really inspired. I wrote a lot of records off the album just by visiting South Africa and being able to move around like I did.
Kendrick is always searching for new stories to tell, so he makes it a point to stay grounded because ultimately he understands that this is where the magic comes from.
Discipline, dog. This man is the definition of discipline. This is my guy. Okay. Love you, bro. He putting it back on and he getting back fresh and to go back to work. Come on, man. Real man shit. That way. Mm-hmm. Okay, you put it through. Okay. Yeah. That, okay, that's what I did wrong. Yeah.
You see this a lot with people who are held to a high regard in our communities. Andre 3000 and Muhammad Ali are two great examples. You'll see them doing things which most people wouldn't expect from superstars.
You don't hide from your public. You walk around, you talk to people, you meet people. Do you have a bodyguard?
No. Greatness is not guarding yourself from the people. Greatness is being accepted by the people.
This is something not only he himself practices, but his people do too.
Kendrick is smart. We already a ghost. This motherfucker is a ghost. How do you know what to do to heal people if you're surrounded by just music and musicians all the time? There's all different ways of healing, but there's no way to tell unless you're living that human environment. And sometimes when you're when I'm in an environment with musicians, and I don't want it like this, but sometimes it tends to be less human sometimes and more musician. Like we're not humans.
It sounds so simple, but it's probably the biggest reason why they're still able to connect every time they release. After going on tour again, going to Asia, going back to Africa, meeting new people, hearing new perspectives, I'm just eager to see what the hell he has to say this time.